But this is such a prism into every angle of this. You can watch the full clip at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com right now. Dirty tricks, ABC claim of Alex Jones' no-show is a hoax. And again, in just a few minutes, we're going to air the clip from the beginning. Network blames its own screw-up on radio host. Now, that's Paul Watson writing an article today on Sunday, trying to be a journalist, trying to be fair. I've done this hundreds of times. I've been in satellite studios 300 times or more. You'll notice you don't see me a lot doing it now because they just edit what I have to say down to 10 seconds to misrepresent what I'm saying, because I don't just put out sound bites. And I also talk theoretically or rhetorically, or I'll quote others. And they'll do stuff like I'll quote Hitler and say Hitler was bad. They'll show me quote Hitler out of context like I'm pro-Hitler. I mean, I've had that happen. You've all seen MSNBC say that I was behind the Boston bombings and then give no proof. I mean, we're talking outrageous craziness, and it's because of what I'm covering. But I know what happened here. They wanted to have an edited 30, 40-second piece to make it look like they were fair journalists and pretend journalists, and that they interviewed the person that, quote, broke this story, the media system that first talked about this. And when I didn't show up to be taped, because I told them I wasn't doing it yesterday in phone calls and email, they had to then, oh gosh, I guess let's get him live. But wait, that'll look bad if he's live. He'll take over like Piers Morgan and other shows and BBC. And so I get called at 8:48. It would take that long for me to go and get in the car and maybe get there. So I was sitting right there with coffee at the computer reading news. Beep, cars downstairs. I didn't call them, nothing. Because I don't worship them. I'm sick of just waiting for the mainstream media and going to their studios 3 hours before. They want to be there at 6 a.m. or to be picked up at 6. And then just sit there in case a bunch of Washington wonks. I mean, have you seen, yesterday they at least had interesting reporters and interesting newsmen and women who you wanted to watch, who were stars. Tom Brokaw, Dan Rather, Marley Safer, all these cool people. Now you watch it, it's all a bunch of political operatives of the Democratic Party mainly. 80% of them on average. A bunch of boring mummies on TV. I mean, imagine if Karl Rove had his own show, it'd be boring. I mean, it's just, you wonder why you don't have any viewers anymore. These Sunday news shows used to have 10, 15 million viewers. Now they got 3, 4, 5 million if they're lucky. And then I'm just going to let you edit what I have to say. Eisenhower warned of the military-industrial complex taking over. We have the military trained to take on gun owners and vets. It's all over the news. The military is telling us about it. They don't like us. Exposing this. Here is the Eisenhower quote. In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. Should I play the actual TV clip? I was going to go on and quote that. And I had gotten myself where I'd memorized it yesterday, and I was going to open with that. And then I was going to clean their clocks. I was going to say in every other third world country and dictatorship, the military's been used to take over. From the Soviet Union, with the rise of the Bolsheviks, to Nazi Germany, to Mao Zedong, political power grows out of the barrel of a gun. And here I have Forbes, and here I have Reuters, with the headlines that the military's main mission is taking on the American people. Now, as Senator Cruz has said, the mainstream media has lost credibility, and so has the government. And so Texas is concerned, and Governor Abbott simply said we're going to monitor it to allay fears. And you then put out hundreds of editorial articles and editorial cartoons showing Texans picking their nose, wearing Alex Jones fan T-shirts and tinfoil hats, pointing guns at Governor Abbott. That's the L.A. Times cartoon graphic that we'll put up on screen from the L.A. Times itself. But you type in Alex Jones, Jade Helm, there's 250-something articles today, and this cartoon is one of them, with the Alex Jones fan and the Texans eating their boogers, and the Texan with a rebel flag putting a gun to the head of the governor. What's constituent? Must be fancy word for patriot. And has the governor saying, I know the U.S. Army is not about to take over Texas and lock up everyone in Walmarts, but since my constituents believe it, I'm sending in the state guard. That's and then the seal of the state of the paranormal. Really, the paranormal, the militarization of police. The president acting as a dictator outside of Congress. That's why Louis Gohmert, Army veteran, came out and said, no, I'm concerned about martial law. We don't think this event's going to be it, but it's clearly part of the long-term acclimation program for it. But this itself is an example of how they respond. Let's go ahead and go out to break with the first part of the White House run and staffed by a bunch of White House operatives face the nation. Here it is.
Now to a Texas-sized conspiracy theory sparking headlines across the country, including this week in the New York Times. The theory
that an
upcoming...
I'm gonna analyze this this week, Face the Nation, they're all the same, this ABC News piece, very slowly. First, their god is the New York Times. That's where they get their main talking points. So they didn't start reporting on this at this week until the New York Times reported it. Even though it had already been on CBS, ABC, NBC, all the nightly news, they didn't start reporting on it on the major policy wonk show where the establishment tunes in to get their talking points until the New York Times got to it. And then it's a Texas size, Texas tales. No, Texans have the lower taxes, have more of the basic freedoms, have the right to private property, things like that. That's why everyone like a lifeboat is fleeing the East and the West in California and other areas to come here. So you make the jokes, you show some country music and some hayseeds and imply we're all a bunch of bumpkins, don't know what go on. Now, we know the John Warner Defense Authorization Act, the Patriot Act, the rest of it. So again, we're going to go to break so we have plenty of time. I'm going to come back and I'm going to play this and just analyze this from the front to the back. But remember, they wanted to claim that they tried to have me there to debate me, but magically it didn't happen. Magically. Because they knew I was going to come out and say, I told you only live, you agreed to it, you stopped. So they wanted to be able to say, we wanted to talk to Mr. Jones, but he wouldn't show up, to imply I've got something to hide. I've had them do it before. This is what they do. They want to play it journalist. Most of the time, print media calls us to an interview. It's just to act like they talk to us. They won't even quote us. It's all just theater. The makeup, the skeletal undergirding of the takeover incrementally of this society. I mean, I'd get up here with James Bamford, former producer of Nightline, in like 1998 when he had a book out about NSA spying with all the documents. It's basically everything Snowden's told us. And people would say, Jones claims he's exposed the NSA and that they're spying without warrants. Ha, 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 that's illegal. Everyone knows that's impossible. Good guys run the government. And now we know they're spying on Congress itself, the bureaucracy. The worst, the worst. I mean, Congress came out on Friday and said, we're allowed to insider trade again and shut down an SEC investigation into massive insider trading. Corruption's been legalized at the top. But little people are under attack. And they want this gravy train to continue. And as Texans and others wake up and don't want to be slaves, don't want Obamacare, don't want their kids taught how to have sex at age 5, don't want forced inoculations, you just call us kooks. And there are, no exaggeration, more than 15 news articles I saw today where they have me or others wearing tinfoil hats on our head. Where's your debate? Where's your argument? Jade Helm, mastering the human domain, we have now discovered, back to Pentagon documents, is indeed for domestic psyops and to condition the public under sociology to understand how to take over America. And I love how they have Republicans and Democrats, and including this panel, saying, listen, you cannot trust the government. That's fine. But you don't question our military. That is such a bizarre statement. Our military is run by the government. It's self-run by special interest. It's like saying, you can question Hitler, but you don't question the German army. Well, who runs the German army in 1939, 1944? It's just the logic has left the building. But I saw a video on Infowars.com and a news article Friday where the majority of New Yorkers who spoke English, these were domestic people. Few of them had accents. They knew what World War II was. They didn't know what World War II was. They thought it was Desert Storm, most of them. Yeah, we fought Hitler and that Saddam guy in the desert, right? I mean, these shows target, and you know the demographics for this week, senile old people. Nothing against old people, but only senile folks are watching it mainly. And kind of government types and people getting their talking points. So they're just preying on people. And that's why we have a bigger audience than you. I mean, we've got 5 million views a week on one YouTube channel. You have 3.5, 4 million viewers a week. I mean, where is the prestige? We have 3 million radio listeners rated a day listening. You add all the aggregate systems together, it's 20 million. There's the article. VE Day, because that was the 70th anniversary on Friday. Americans don't know what World War II was. See, that's the type of American that these shows have helped create. Totally dumbed down. Totally mindless. Now, I'm going to try to shut up and not pause too much during this and maybe just write notes because it is really hard to listen to. But let's go ahead and go to the piece that they claim I chickened out on. Does anyone really believe I chickened out to debate these people? They chickened out and said I couldn't come on live. And then I said, why do you want me there 3 hours early to tape it? I'm not doing it. I'll do live or nothing. And they didn't respond and then showed up 12 minutes before airtime so they could claim with their $50 taxi cab that I was a chicken. He wouldn't come on and debate us. Well, we win. Let's go to another rigged fight where they took the engine out of our NASCAR and claimed that we were scared to race. Here it is.
Now to a Texas-sized conspiracy theory sparking headlines across the country, including this week in the New York Times. The theory that an upcoming Pentagon training exercise is actually part of a plan to impose martial law.
Pause.
To many, it's
far-fetched, but not to Texas, because, they're knuckle draggers. We have said that is preparation for all-out conditioning. And then we show the Pentagon documents. So let's go back to her.
Fetched, but not to some of the top politicians in the Lone Star State.
And you know why? Because they know, as Louis Gohmert, the congressman, said, it's in all these Pentagon training manuals to take on veterans, gun owners, conservatives, libertarians, and Christians. So, see, everybody knows because you're on MSNBC promoting how we need to arrest all the Tea Party and how great it is to have the IRS persecute people. I mean, they own up to all that. You guys ship guns into Mexico to blame the Second Amendment. You've opened the borders up outside of law. Obamacare is gang raping the country. You're saying we can keep our doctor and all these lies, and you're not. So you can sit there all pretentious with your shrinking audience, like an African water hole. You're all like a bunch of crocodiles in there. There's not about to be any water left, and you're just snapping. But you're still a mighty crocodile. Even though you're on your last legs, you still are arrogant. You still are a predator, aren't you? Just another control freak predator. I can't even look at her. Just go back to the clip.
BC's David Wright.
Mamas, tell all your babies, don't mess with Texas.
From Willie Nelson.
Carlson on down, it's practically the slogan of the state.
Don't mess with Texas.
And that may explain the reaction to Jade Helm 15, a multi-state training exercise for U.S. Special Forces planned this summer for the Southwest. Talk show host Alex Jones among the many, stirring up concerns on conservative websites and social media that Jade Helm